Welcome to the Disney Wedding Podcast. This show is brought to you by Carrie Hayward's Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, the only guidebook and bridal organizer tailored exclusively to Disney's fairy tale weddings at Walt Disney World. I'm Carrie Hayward, and each week I feature Disney wedding updates, money-saving tips, and interviews with wedding vendors and real Disney couples. I also cover honeymoons, anniversaries, and engagements at the Disney parks and resorts. Join me now as the Disney Wedding Podcast celebrates romance at Disney destinations. Today on the Disney Wedding Podcast, I am speaking with Disney bride Jessie Carney about her Disney Cruise Line wedding at Castaway Cay with a reception at the Bayou. I thought you guys would be interested to hear how she chose the cruise and the locations and how it all turned out. So welcome, Jessie.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for being on the show today. I would love to start at the very beginning and find out how you and your fiancé decided that you wanted to have your wedding on the Disney Cruise Line.
Yes, so we had actually wanted to do a cruise wedding. We had decided that a while ago. Unfortunately, I lost my mom a while ago, and I knew that doing something on land and with everyone and being walked down the aisle just wasn't in the picture for me. So we wanted to do a destination wedding and have just a smaller, more intimate setting and something that could also take everyone away from just our everyday lives and not just have a one-day event and actually do something that was more of a vacation and to give us all some more time to spend together. And we honestly, we've been huge Disney fans. We are absolute Disney adults. We have annual passes and everything since we live here in Florida. And we thought that doing a Disney wedding was just going to be outside of our price range. And so looking into all of the packages for all of the other cruise lines, we just decided to take a look and see what Disney would offer. And to our surprise, it was extremely competitive and actually included a lot more than some of the other cruise lines that we had seen. And so we knew that our Disney wedding dream would actually be able to come true.
It's wonderful. How did your friends and family react when they found out where the wedding was going to be?
It was a little bit of a mix. I mean, we had some that, were super happy, super excited, and we just needed to figure out how we were going to plan and do everything. And then we had others that gave a little bit of pushback on it. But ultimately, we knew we were going to have to do something for a ceremony at least, or some kind of court ceremony that we would have to do a legal wedding here in Florida. And thankfully, we have some amazing family members that actually threw us a little reception party after our court ceremony. And so we were actually able to get those family and friends that weren't going to be able to make it onto the cruise to be able to still come and celebrate us and our love and have a great night as well.
How many guests did you invite and how many were able to make the trip?
So we invited about 45 of our family and friends, and we actually had a super big turnout. We had about 29 people, not including us or our photographers.
That's great. And you mentioned that you had a court ceremony. So you guys decided to get married at home and have like a vow renewal kind of thing, but call it a wedding on the ship?
Yes, so we did it as just the two of us, and my grandpa actually went to the courthouse so that we can actually get it legalized and have a legal wedding date here in Florida. But we still consider our actual wedding on the Disney ship our true wedding.
Now, which ship did you choose, and how did you choose the locations for the ceremony and the celebration?
Yeah, so it was really more so based off of timeline, not necessarily on the ship. We knew that we wanted to do, obviously with the packages and everything, we wanted to do a Disney ship, but it was more so wanting it to be at the end of April, early May, and then wanting it to be in the port in Orlando, so the Port Canaveral, because that's just pretty much in the middle of us with our friends and family. So we kind of wanted the location of where we were shipping out, and it so happened to be the Disney Wish, and also to the timeline on duration. So we knew that doing a longer cruise was going to affect, the attendance of who was going to be able to come and take off of work, and also price points. So we wanted to keep it just a 3-night, 4-day cruise, and the Disney Wish was exactly what was offering that.
Got it. How did you choose Castaway Cay for your ceremony?
I always envisioned doing a beach wedding, and knowing that Castaway Cay was their private island, was on the beach, and the other options were either the like atrium, the Grand Hall, or I think a couple other locations, but really was calling to me was Castaway. They had the dock option as well, but I really wanted to do it on the sand right there on the beach, and it was perfect.
Did they give you any other options on the ship besides the Bayou for your reception?
I believe because of our party size, we weren't going to be able to do anything else. They just let us know that it was going to be in the Bayou, which would have been my top pick anyways, just because the location is stunning with all of the flowers on the ceiling and just the views there are absolutely amazing.
That's great. Now, I know sometimes people say, oh, but the Bayou is open, it's not private enough. How did you feel about that?
Well, because we were docked in Castaway, everyone was off on the island. So, really, the ship after our wedding ceremony was completely empty. After the reception, we even took group pictures out in the Grand Hall on the stage with the staircase and everything, and there was not even a soul in sight.
Fantastic. Did you customize the standard cruise collection package elements at all?
There were a few things that I did request and change up. One of those was my bouquet. So I did order the standard bouquet, the rose ivory, and didn't do any additions on it as far as like price point went. But I did put in a special request to see if there was absolutely any way they could wrap it in like a light blue ribbon instead of just the ivory or the white. And they were actually able to do that, which was so amazing because it matched perfectly with our theme and with all of the colors that we had already incorporated. And then there were a couple other things that we did, like you get Apollo dining. And I knew that with such a short trip, I wanted to spend more time with my family. And so we decided to do brunch instead of a dinner, which they were able to do no problem. And then we also decided to do a specific rotation of dining since we had certain things planned for certain days. So we did the Marvel Frozen in 1923 that we had special requested, and they were able to accommodate. And then I also had a specific cake topper that I wanted to be put on the cake as well, and they were able to do it.
That's great. What style did you choose for the cake and what flavors?
We chose the standard option, I believe. I think it was like 2 or 3 tiers. And we were very plain Jane, wanted to do vanilla on vanilla.
A crowd pleaser.
Yes.
Now, did you guys add any land-based options around your cruise, like a bridal portrait session or dessert party?
We didn't do that just because that wasn't something that was super important to us. I mean, we go to Disney all the time and we have our own things, and we figured just our wedding pictures and everything would be perfectly fine. So we didn't add any add-ons after that.
Okay. What did you decide to do about hair and makeup? I know sometimes people are a little bit wary about using the salon on the ship.
Yes, so I tossed that option for quite a while, and I was also looking into photography as well. I had a couple photographers who had reached out to me, and I was touching base with them, just kind of asking them their questions. And one of them actually had her assistant that would be going with us, and she is a makeup artist and can do makeup and hair and has done them for other weddings as well. So she was able to do my hair and makeup along with photography.
That's fantastic. How did you decide you were going to bring your own photographer instead of using the ship's photography?
So, photography was something that was very important to us. I had seen that there was an option to add packages for our wedding collection. And I just didn't love the idea of, someone who's not a wedding photographer to capture the moment for, those moments for that day and capture those memories. So I decided I really wanted to invest in a photographer to have those pictures and have those memories saved for us.
That's wonderful. Can you give my listeners a timeline of how the day ran?
Yeah, so for that day, because it was Castaway, we had a very early ceremony. So we started getting ready at about 6. We had my bridesmaids and I getting ready in my room, and then my husband was getting ready in one of his groomsmen's room with all of the other groomsmen. And then our photographer did detail shots while I was getting my hair and makeup done. And one of the things that we wanted to incorporate as well is a vow exchange. So we had both written like a letter to each other, and that was our vow exchange. So our photographer actually was able to take it to each other because he wanted to be very traditional and not do a first look. So we were completely separated the morning of, and he read it out and she captured the moment, and then she then brought his book to me, and then I read it out and she was able to capture pictures of us reading the vows. And then all of the guests had to be in the atrium by, I believe it was 9:30 in the morning. They were all taken to the location and then they came to grab me. And then it was until about 10:45 was the full ceremony and the pictures. They took everyone back over to the ship, and then they took me and Alex over to take pictures just for ourselves before the reception time. Then we had the reception, and that was until about 12. We did our cake cutting, our toast. We had a couple of our family members do toast as well. Took a bunch of pictures there. And then after the reception, we took some group pictures out in the atrium and on the stage. And then everyone kind of dispersed. They were able to go to Castaway Cay. We took a couple more pictures ourselves, and then we changed and went to Castaway Cay. We went snorkeling and everything. It was great. And then when we came back about 4:30, we started getting ready again. We wanted to wear our wedding attire back for dinner. So we were able to get back ready. Melissa was actually amazing, who redid my hair and then touched up my makeup. And we went to dinner, took some sunset pictures as well, and just got to spend the rest of the night with the family.
That's wonderful. Now, since you had brought your own photographer on the cruise, did you also do any other photo shoots like at Castaway Cay or during fireworks night?
Yes, so fireworks night was also very important to us. I love fireworks so much. I love the happily ever after, and we actually got engaged during happily ever after in Magic Kingdom. So fireworks were super important. So the day before the ceremony, we had dinner at Frozen and we all got ready for that. And right after, our photographer was amazing and used our huge party to kind of create a barrier around us so that we had a perfect view of the fireworks. And we have some amazing pictures of us with the fireworks.
That's wonderful. When you guys were planning, what were some of the most important aspects of the wedding where you focused your attention or your budget?
Yeah, so I know I talked about it before, but the pictures were just the number one thing that we wanted to invest in, is just having a photographer with us. And then just our family's enjoyment of the entire thing. Obviously, this was for our wedding, but we wanted to make sure that our family and our friends were able to fully immerse themselves in Disney and in everything that the cruise could offer. I actually spent a lot of time making just little goodie bags. I made goodie bags for all of our guests with a bunch of items in there, between like a light card for the Disney rooms, how they have to power the lights. And we also had streamers for everyone too, for after the ceremony, little bells. So we got a bunch of stuff there for them throughout the cruise. And then other things were like just the details, like my cake topper. I had a Cinderella theme kind of going on. So just the tiara, guest book, my shoes, everything was very Cinderella themed. So that was another thing that was very important.
That's great. Were there any aspects that were less important where you saved your money or just your effort?
Yeah, so we weren't super intrigued in like going to all of the shows. We definitely liked like the game shows and the little activities outside of that, but going to like the movies and the shows wasn't a huge thing for us. There was also an option of extending the reception or adding like a drink package to the reception, and that also wasn't super intriguing to us because we did want our family and friends to be able to enjoy Castaway, and if we would have extended that, they would have had a lot of less time there. And then everyone kind of kept mentioning that because it's a Disney ship, there would be a lot of kids on board, and that might not be something that we would want for a wedding. And that wasn't something that was like hugely a big deal to us. I mean, we knew it was Disney. We know that there's going to be a lot of kids there, but that wasn't even something that really affected it in absolutely any way. So that was something that we knew wasn't going to be a huge issue.
That's funny. I've interviewed so many cruise couples over the years, and I've never heard them say, "Oh, the ship was overrun with children."
No, exactly. And I think it was more so from like our family. And then we had a travel planner that helped us like book the cruise and everything. And so they were kind of just pushing back on that and just saying, hey, just think about this. And that, again, was not something that we felt was going to be a huge impact, anyways.
Got it. Okay. So out of all of this, what ended up being your favorite memory of your wedding day?
Oh, well, I mean, of course, marrying the love of my life was just number one. But other than that, we had a couple funny moments. I mean, our family and friends are funny characters. And we actually enlisted his best man to have one specific task, which was to make sure that the officiant was not in the background of our first kiss picture, because that is like I've seen number one thing that I'm like, I really want a beautiful first kiss picture, but not with the officiant in the background. And it was so funny because they did not know that they were supposed to move out of the way, and he went and just grabbed her and was like, no, you gotta come on. And we have a play-by-play shot of that entire moment. It was the funniest thing. We're never gonna let him live that down. And then we also provided everyone with streamers that were like these little poppers that you held in your hand and you threw. And right as we walked down the aisle after the ceremony, everyone threw it, and then everyone was tangled up in the streamers. It was so funny.
That's such a great point about the first kiss, because at Disney World, some of the officiants who regularly officiate Disney weddings, they know this and they will like jet out of the shot when they know it's time to take the picture of the first kiss. But that's a really good point that, not every officiant does that. And to have somebody in charge of ensuring that is a great idea.
Yes, and we completely forgot to tell the wedding coordinator, so they did not tell the officiant. So when he went up there, he just like was like, "No, you gotta come."
And who officiated? Was it the ship's captain?
No, it was not the ship's captain. It was actually one of the officiants from the Bahamas.
Oh, right, because you were on Castaway Cay.
Yes.
I see. Okay. Now, did anything go wrong or just not turn out like you expected?
I wouldn't necessarily say anything went wrong. We definitely enjoyed ourselves a lot. And on that first night, we stayed out super late, and I closed both of the blinds. You know how they have the blackout curtains and everything in the rooms. I was supposed to wake up pretty early the next morning so that I can go and take pictures with Chewie, because it was also May 4th. So, Star Wars Day. And I wanted to take a picture with Chewie, and our photographer was going to be there. Completely slept through every single alarm, did not wake up. Our photographer's calling us, did not hear anything, so we completely missed taking a picture with Chewie. So that was really funny looking back on it. But just as a tip, if you got to wake up early, do not close the blackout curtains or you will sleep through everything. And then in my packet, they did mention that we would be getting a cake cutting set. And I guess they had changed that prior to our sailing, but after we had already booked everything. So we ended up getting a different gift and not the cake cutting set. And that was something that was a bit disappointing because we really wanted that cake cutter for our anniversary for next year.
That's interesting. I didn't realize they had changed that. What did they give you instead?
They gave us a corksicle, like wine tumbler instead.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing because it's not something that we were really expecting.
Was there anything that seemed like a big deal beforehand or you were worried about and then it turned out not to be a big deal?
I was super worried about having to change the plans if, anything happened with the weather or a change in itinerary, that we would not be able to do our ceremony on Castaway and on the beach. So that was something I was really concerned about. And thankfully, the weather was on our side and we did not have any issues that we were able to do that and have our ceremony there on the beach. And then also having an itinerary. I know that we've cruised with Royal before and they, put out the itinerary and kind of what shows and what things are happening on the ship before you get on the ship. I am an insane planner, and not having an itinerary and a plan gives me major anxiety. But really, there wasn't so much going on that it was an issue that, we couldn't figure out when we got on the ship.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Is there anything you would have done differently knowing what you know now?
Not necessarily doing anything differently. I think our wedding was perfect and it was exactly what we wanted. But obviously, looking back on it, I wish it would have lasted a lot longer. So, looking back, I maybe would have been more inclined to doing a longer sailing.
Okay. Do you have any other tips or advice for future Disney couples?
I would definitely say don't stress the small stuff. The best part of having a cruise wedding is that it's very simple. Everything is, kind of already made up for you, and you just have a few choices to pick from. So, not to stress the little things. And then a photographer, if you're planning on bringing one, to really get someone who knows the ship, who knows how things should go in the cruise weddings, because Michelle was honestly a huge saving grace for us. And knowing everything. So I was able to have these conversations about the itinerary and things that I was stressing about. And she was able to really calm me down and give me all of the details and all of the information that she knew. She even helped me with knowing the actual itinerary for the changes in the rotational dining. So I knew exactly which one to choose. So having someone who really knows the ship so you can have that conversation with, asking all of the questions, every question that you have, ask your wedding coordinator. I don't know how many times I sent emails back and forth with our land coordinator, and she was so helpful in going through all of my questions and answering everything that we had questions on. And then if you're planning on bringing your own music, make sure that you've downloaded that music so that way you don't have any issues when you get there. Thankfully, we thought about this ahead of time, and all of my bridesmaids all downloaded the music and the whole playlist just in case my phone didn't work, someone else's phone was going to work.
That's great advice. Well, Jessie, I think you've offered a lot of great tips and advice for anyone who's interested in getting married or having a vow renewal on the Disney Cruise Line, and I appreciate your taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure.
That's our show for today. I'm your host, Carrie Hayward, inviting you to join me again next week for another episode of the Disney Wedding Podcast. Past shows and tons of photos for each episode are available on my website, DisneyWeddingPodcast.com, or listen in your favorite podcast app. And for instant answers to all your Walt Disney World wedding questions, check out Carrie Hayward's Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, available as an interactive ebook with continual free updates at fairytaleweddingsguide.com.